Hey everyone, and welcome back to my class review series where I level every class up to 110, gear it up, play each spec, and share my thoughts with you. Today we're going to be tackling the game's second most recent class, the Monk. So let's just get right into it with Windwalker, which has been historically one of my favourite melee DPS specs in the game since its introduction in Mists of Pandaria. It's always had a pretty great mix of being fast-paced, but also still requiring precision with your ability usage. I actually remember all the way back in Mists of Pandaria, Windwalker was in the state where it had insane theoretical damage, but barely anyone was able to essentially live up to that in a realistic scenario. I think there was a big blog post from Celestial about that, if I remember right. But anyway, since then it's went through quite a few tweaks, and it has arrived in Legion with, I think, much of its core identity intact, bar the brews. One major mechanical sort of thing has been replaced with Legion, so Tiger Eye Brew operates differently to how it used to be, and it used to be super core to your performance, but that's kind of been replaced with hit combo, which personally I'm fine with, even if the new version is a bit easier to play. But let's get right into the gameplay brief. This is one that I'm pretty damn hyped to do, so let's just get right into it. We've got energy and then we've got chi. Chi, think of them as combo points, essentially. Like many specs, you are spending your energy to generating chi, combo points, and then you are spending your chi on the abilities that really hit the hardest, like Rising Sun Kick, Fists of Fury, and Strike of the Windlord. So let's just get in and start whacking some stuff. Okay, we've just used Tiger Palm, 50 energy, gives me 2 chi, pretty sweet. There's Blackout Kick, this will spend 1 chi, do a bit of damage, kind of a filler spell. Rising Sun Kick, boom, big amount of damage, so very important one to sort of be keeping on cooldown. Fists of Fury, whole bunch of damage, 3 chi, 20-second cooldown. You always want to be making sure that is staying on cooldown for sure. We then got Strike with the Windlord, artifact ability, 2 chi, does a whole bunch of damage. As you can see, it's a pretty damn cool ability. And that really is the core of how this is playing, but it does get a little bit deeper. So, we've also got Whirling Dragon Punch. I can use this whenever my like Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury are not on cooldown. That is a talent, but it's a talent that just about everyone plays with, so I figure it's worth sort of mentioning here. So yeah, that is our core set of spells. Now, you've probably noticed something while I've been doing this gameplay. I've not, or at least, I mean, not really doing the rotation properly, but I am not repeating spell casts. Now, you might be thinking, what? Why? Because, say, back in Mists of Pandaria, the joke was, oh, monks, all they do is just blackout kick all the time. There was a sort of misconception that was super spammy back then. Anyway, so, Mastery Combo Strikes. Your abilities deal 22% more damage when they are not a repeat of your previous ability, which is paired up with a talent that is called Hit Combo. Each successive attack that triggers combo strikes in a row gains 2% increased damage, stacking up to 6 times. So, if I go in, do a bunch of attacks here, and completely fail at using Fist of Fury when I should have, you can see that I am increasing this, and now, you know, I'm at 6 stacks. I'm now doing 12% more damage flat. So that's pretty cool. Now, to not break that, you then have things like, say, Chi Wave, which I talent into. It's got a 15-second cooldown. It's really handy because, let's just say everything's on cooldown. You've just used the Blackout Kick. You still want to do something, but you don't want to use a Blackout Kick again. I can then just do a quick little Chi Wave, back to a Blackout kick, and that will preserve my hit combo, which is kind of important to how it plays. I also need to mention a little bit of AoE. So here's a Spinning Crane Kick. You see, oh yeah, whatever, it does some damage. But more importantly, it does 40% more damage for every unique target that is struck in the last 15 seconds with your Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, or Rising Sun Kick. Okay, so I will do that, and that, and that, and that. Wow, I think I actually completely failed and missed one of those guys. Anyway, there we... Oh yeah, we're at 6 now. Great. Some of these bags are inside each other. It's kind of weird. Oh, 5. But anyway, it now does a whole bunch more damage. And that's essentially how that's working in an AoE scenario. You want to sort of tally that up. As far as our sort of big cooldowns, we've got Energizing Elixir. I'm just going to spend all my resources here. It's actually an interesting one because it's very hard to use it perfectly. And I'm just going to break my hit combo here. So, you know, you want to get to, like, ideally almost no resources and then be able to use it. But it's actually quite hard to do. So, for people who are using Energizing Elixir badly, Power Strikes can actually math out to be better. But if you're using Energizing Elixir well, it is by far the superior talent. So that's an interesting little thing. Then our other one is Storm, Earth, and Fire, which is pretty cool. We summon in our sort of repeat dudes. They are pretty damn fun indeed. And you can see they really do tally up your spinning crane kick a lot. There you go. That is the gameplay brief of the Windwalker Monk. Okay, so as you can see, it is a pretty damn fast-paced spec that still has quite deliberate gameplay. It's very nimble. You don't really feel tied down when you're playing it. Unlike, say, some damage over time, bleed classes, whatever. With the monk, you just go up to stuff and you punch it in the face, so there isn't much kind of wind-up time when you enter a fight, so you feel kind of freed up, and that's combined with the extremely powerful movement mechanics, it just overall makes it a real blast to play. I think their abilities as well are just really satisfying to use, especially the kind of rhythm you fall into when you are going through the rotation. Having to maintain hit combo and combo strikes basically keeps things diversified, and it keeps you engaged with the gameplay. I do really like how it essentially kind of gets rid of, like, spamming multiple blackout kicks, and how the addition of, say, Strike of the Windlord and Whirling Dragon Punch fill in the gaps and add a little bit more depth to the rotation. I suppose overall my takeaway here is that the DPS rotation is fast-paced, it's got a strong rhythm, and that overall just means it doesn't get boring. You then combine that with excellent movement and really no mechanics that are, like, annoying or fiddly, and I just think this is one of the best melee DPS specs in the game, hands down. I think it's basically fantastic. Moving on to Brewmaster, well, it often feels like a tank version of Windwalker, and that is no bad thing. It does stand out as a unique tank with that gameplay, and even more so due to it having one of the most unique mechanics in the game, Stagger, which really is so core that we just need to get right into the gameplay brief now. So I'm going to do this roughly 2 bits. First of all, explain the basic abilities at this dummy. Second, we will talk about Stagger at the tank dummy. So let's move over to this guy, get into combat here. And I've got this very simple core rotation of these abilities. So, Tiger Palm costs energy, does damage, a little bit of damage, but more importantly, reduces the remaining cooldown of my brews by 1 second. You'll see why that's important later. We then have Keg Smash, costs 40 energy, ranged attack, got a bit of AoE, pretty damn cool ability. It will reduce the remaining cooldown of my brews by 4 seconds, which is pretty great. We then have Breath of Fire, so you breathe fire on your targets, it applies a dot if that's a target that you Keg Smashed, and, importantly, for every target that you hit, it will generate a stack of Elusive Brawler. You might be thinking, what's Elusive Brawler? Well, first of all, Blackout Strike. 3-second cooldown, you whack the enemy, do some damage, and it also generates a stack of Elusive Brawler. Elusive Brawler is your mastery, so it basically... There we go. Each time you're hit by melee attack or hit with Blackout Strike or Breath of Fire, you gain an 18% increased dodge chance to your next successful dodge. So if I've, as an example, just, I'm at 71% now, I'm tracking here. This is from Sonier's Art of War, by the way, this week aura. So if I right-click here, you can see very high chance. There we go, I dodged the attack, and the Elusive Brawlers went away. So that is really the core of what's going on here. And then there's also Rushing Jade Wind, which is an AoE. You just want to keep that maintained. Really, the core of it is always using your Keg Smashes and your Tiger Palms to reduce the cooldown of your Iron Skin and Purifying Brew, while then also using your Breath of Fire and your Blackout Strike on cooldown. As you can imagine, it therefore is very fast-paced indeed. But let's talk about Stagger, which is the really important thing. So here's my Stagger bar, also from Sonier's Art of War. Now, what does Stagger do? Okay, let's just read it off here. You shrug off attacks delaying 50% of physical damage. It's actually 40, I think. I've got the talent, which gives another 10. But anyway, and you instead take that damage you shrug off as a dot over the next 10 seconds. And it affects magical attacks with less effectiveness, but you can talent into Mystic Vitality if you know you're going to be taking magic damage. So, what does this mean? Well, basically, if I have, right now because of my setup, let's just say I have 50% Stagger, and then I get hit for 10 million damage. I take 5 million damage instantly, and then the other 5 million I take as a dot for the next 10 seconds. Now, this is something that's got a very important interaction with our brews. So we have our Iron Skin brew. This increases the damage you delay with Stagger by an additional 35%. So that means you can be getting like 75+% Stagger, which really means that you're deferring a lot of damage onto the Stagger dot and away from just what's, being punched to you in the face. We then have Purifying Brew, clears 44% of your damage delayed with Stagger, and it shares charges with Iron Skin Brews, so you have a bit of a resource management thing here. You've got these two different brews, 3 charges, and you got to work out how to use them best. So generally, if you're taking like a lot of sustained damage, or you know you're about to just take a massive hit from an enemy, you want to use Iron Skin Brew because you know, crap, I'm about to take a massive attack. I should shrug off as much of that as I can. And then, if you were to imagine that has left you with an extremely high amount of stagger, you could then use Purify to get rid of 44% of that. Now, it's kind of hard to do with these guys. Maybe if can they both attack me here? I think they... I don't think they can, no. Okay, we'll just go into this guy. So, yeah, I've got my stagger. It's currently like 10% of my... This is a percentage of my max health. Now, if I use Iron Skin Brew, I will be staggering off more of his damage, which would be pretty great. And then if I use Purify, you can see it, you know, removed my stagger. It's kind of hard to show in these guys. You'll see in the other, like, tank and gameplay footage. But there's the stagger debuff. So right now, it's light. And it's just going through the amount of stagger on me. If I use Purifying Brew, that almost halved. That's essentially how stagger works. Stagger is super important. It's basically the core of this spec. Using it badly will mean that you'll do terribly. Using it well will mean you'll do excellently. As an example, you can get almost 100%, pretty much 100% Iron Skin Brew uptime because you're using that and then you're using your Talent Black Ox Brew, which is a 1.5 minute cooldown that instantly refills all 3 of your charges of your other brews. So yeah, there you go. Pretty much that's the core of what you need to understand for the Brewmaster Monk. So I really need to just kick off my opinions with Stagger. I think it is a really interesting and enjoyable mechanic due to the Iron Skin and Purifying Brews, especially when you've talented into Black Ox Brew. It's basically this micro gameplay loop of resource management and decision making that happens on top of your regular rotation. And this means that there's always something to be thinking about, and I think importantly, like the management of that stagger bar, it's just really satisfying. Iron skinning a massive amount onto your stagger and then purifying it off, it just feels brilliant, especially if there's a really big burst of damage coming in. Another great part of this is the cooldown of your brews is reduced when you use Keg Smash and Tiger Palm, so executing the main rotation like fast and well and correctly is really important, and it increases the gameplay pace and basically increases your Iron Skin Brew uptime. Now, on top of that, you're probably also wanting to maintain uptime on your Rushing Jade Wind, so it overall is just really action-packed. So, a really fast rotation with execution that really matters, paired with having a really unique control over your incoming damage. That's kind of how I'd summarize Brewmaster. Now, I can certainly see that playing a Brewmaster Monk without reading guides would just be a complete disaster, because if you don't use your brews well and all of that stuff, like, you know, you just taking hits, you're a terrible tank. So it's very much what I'd call active gameplay. It's not the case that you are just really hard to kill. It's that you need to make it that way by playing the Brewmaster right. And that is true for every class, but I think it's even more so true with these guys. They did get a bit of an odd reputation near the start of the expansion, and it maybe is to do with some people not being experienced. It also could be to do with the fact they feel different to heal. Basically, they always have this really big stagger dot ticking, so it's really hard for a healer to top them off, maybe in comparison to some other tanks, but the real strength there is that their incoming damage is way less spiky. So yeah, I guess they just feel different to heal. Now, there are what I would call some weaknesses. Self-healing is definitely one of them. Gift of the Black Ox. It feels really weak and inconsistent to me. You'll need to talent Healing Elixir to remedy that, but generally that talent is a no-go in comparison to Mystic Vitality and Dampen Harm, which definitely went out over it. So this weakness, I think, as well, is also very poignant after recently playing a Blood Death Knight, where you just don't die because you can heal. It's ridiculous. But of course, the thing the Brewmasters can do that a Blood can't is smooth out that incoming damage. So overall, what do I think? Well, this is my second favorite tank. Blood wins because it's just stupid and hilarious to play. But still, I think this is really fun, really rewarding, a great tank spec. If I was to do a top 3 in terms of fun, I would say like Blood DK, and it would be really hard to choose between a Brewmaster Monk and a Vengeance Demon Hunter. I think it would actually just depend on what my mood was on the day. So moving on to Mistweaver, I was actually kind of nervous going into this because I'm definitely inexperienced with healing, having only played a Resto Shaman in Legion and a little bit of a Resto Druid in Warlords. What I found though with this was a very unique feeling healer that had a decently well-rounded toolkit that was just mobile and fun to play. Now, after a quick tweet, it seems like this and the Resto Shaman are two of the most fun healers in Legion, so it might be that I've just ended up doing the two best ones first, but anyway, let's just get into the gameplay brief. So, you probably noticed I'm just sitting here channeling Soothing Mist. What's that? Pretty simple. My Effuse, Vivify, and Enveloping Mist, which are just some of my other heals, they cause me to continue channeling a heal on my target until I do something else. Normally that includes moving, but I'm talented so that I can do it while I'm moving, which is handy for Mythic Plus. But anyway, it's kind of cool. It's just a channeled heal that is free. I mean, it's not really free because you have to use something that costs mana to get it going, but you get what I mean. What's our other abilities, though? Effuse, really simple. It says a fast, inexpensive heal. That's pretty much the case. One of the core uses of it is that it'll start Soothing Mist taking on that target. We then have Renewing Mist, instant heal over time with a short cooldown, moves to another target if its current target reaches full health. So I'll just do that myself. And you'll see, there we go, taking up Renewing Mists. Now each tick of it has a 4% chance to cause my next Vivify to be 40% more powerful. What's Vivify? Group heal, heals the target and 2 nearby people, so I'll do it on myself as a demo, so I do it in me, and boom, it's healed the people who are near me. Now, Vivify is normally really expensive, but that expense is mana efficient if it's 40% more powerful due to Renewing Mists. So there you go, here's these 3 core abilities. We then throw Enveloping Mist into the mix. Short duration heal over time increases the potency of my other heals on the target. So it lasts for 6 seconds, the hot, and while that 6-second hot is on the target, my other heals on that target are 40% more powerful. So if I do that myself, and then we look over here where my mouse is, 40% more powerful healing received. So what does that mean? Well, let's say I'm doing single target healing. I've put Renewing Mist in the target. I then do Enveloping Mists, and then my Soothing Mist is benefiting from that 40%. But if I'm really under pressure, then, you know, I can have my Enveloping Mist going, and then I can do a Effuse on the target, which will also be benefiting. Now, you're probably noticing whenever I'm doing an Effuse, I'm actually pretty much, well, I don't have the combat text set up, but I'm basically getting 2 heals. The reason why is because of Gust of Mist. So, Effuse, Renewing Mists, Enveloping Mists, and Vivify will also cause a Gust of Healing Mist, which instantly heals the primary target for 134,000 damage. So that is basically how our mastery works. Now, it particularly has a synergy with another ability called Essence Font. So, it's easier I just read it first. So, Essence Font will basically send out a bunch of healing bolts to targets within 25 yards, channeled over a few seconds. But what really matters is that the hot that it applies causes Gust of Mist to trigger twice on those targets. So, if I do, okay, we'll find another player. Someone is at the mission board. Hopefully, there we go, this guy, right. So, I actually don't think I got him. I think I got this guy, though. So you'll notice 2 heals will have came out there. Because of the effect of getting basically double mastery, double Gust of Wind in people. So really, that is the core of what I want to cover with this. There is more stuff, like as an example, there's Shenlun's Gift. Basically, whenever I'm healing, you'll see in the gameplay footage, there's little pools of like mist stuff appear, and this will gather them all up and basically absorb them to do a massive, if you have a whole bunch of stacks of it, a massive heal on your target. Now, as an example, a really cool combo is you can do an Enveloping Mists and then do your artifact ability for a truly tremendous amount of healing on your primary target. Great if the tank just got their face smashed in, but that really is most of what I want to cover here to give you the basic idea. Of course, you know, don't expect as sort of great in-depth stuff in the healers from me. This is more just to give you a very basic understanding. But there you go, a quick gameplay brief of the Mistweaver. Okay, so as you can see, it is a pretty interesting blend of direct heals, heals over time, and your channeled Soothing Mists. Now, single target healing with this feels really different to the others in that in a lot of scenarios, you're essentially just doing Renewing Mist on cooldown, and then you're keeping Enveloping Mists up on your main target and then benefiting from the heal increase when you're just sort of channeling your Soothing Mists, and you can throw in more if you're sort of feeling more pressure. Now, it does sound like there's more downtime here, but the management of Soothing Mists, to me, is kind of fun. Renewing Mists doesn't actually trigger it, so you do end up kind of weaving a little bit, using Renewing and then going over to an Enveloping or an Effuse to get your Soothing Mists going. And now, Renewing Mists ticks have a 4% chance to make your next Vivify 40% more powerful, which is really good because, well, more heals is good, but also it makes it mana efficient. I generally like mechanics like this, with things like Tidal Waves and Soul of the Forest being favorites of mine historically. Now, the one weakness that I did find here was doing split healing between the tank and other party members, the mana costs involved are high enough to really make continued use of the rather expensive Vivify and Enveloping Mist sort of eventually worrisome. Still, though, it does take a little bit of getting used to, but after that I eventually did sort of manage to relax and enjoy myself. Now, the main brew mechanic that we have is quite cool. You chug your brew and then it empowers your next usage of one of your core heals with a kind of new effect, and it's only got a 30-second cooldown, and a talent can make it impact your next, the usage of your next 2 heals. Very good for Mythic Plus, I found. So that really can give you a lot of on-demand flexibility and throughput. It makes your Vivify free, which is brilliant for your mana bar. It makes Enveloping Mists instant, removes the cooldown on Renewing Mists, stuff like that. It just gives you a lot of flexibility and a kind of an on-demand reaction thing. I think it's great and a pretty fun mechanic. And overall, I'd say the entire class fantasy is just super strong here. You know, first of all, there's loads of cool spell effects you leave all over the place. I really like playing with the Mist Wrap talent, as the mobility's just fantastic. Maybe it's not ideal for raids, but I really like it for Mythic Plus. But there is just something really satisfying about having all your hots ticking and you're just sort of sitting there channeling your Soothing Mists. Now, I alluded to mana, and a lot of our spells are quite expensive. But that does mean that when you are using Soothing Mist, it's kind of balanced out, and that you're doing Soothing Mist, your mana bar is going up, and that's quite satisfying. So in short, I'd say the whole Soothing Mist mechanic is quite fun to manage. They also have great mobility, and there's a lot of sort of fun short little gameplay loops, such as your brews and your proc Vivifies, that really do keep your interest quite a lot. So I would say, though, take all that with a grain of salt. Healing is my area of least experience. What I will say, though, is I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for different reasons to why I enjoyed the Restoration Shaman, and in my view, they're both really strong, really enjoyable ones that I'd be happy to play. So I do want to quickly mention Class Fantasy. Now, this gets a section for the monks because it's really damn strong. I think that, okay, the animations are great. Each spec, more importantly, its mechanics are really, really well aligned to the core theme of the spec, and that just results on them, or with them, on the whole, just being really satisfying to play. Now, that said, some of their tier sets are pretty weak looking, and while the Order Hall is wonderful, the campaign is laughably terrible. So a little bit of a weak spot if you're more into the lore, but overall I'd say that the monk is like a very satisfying, well-rounded, well-designed and executed experience. So moving on to my conclusion, basically I think that monks are a fantastic hybrid class. Each one of their specs fulfills its role in style, bringing some sort of distinct, new gameplay that isn't really found elsewhere. Stuff's just executed really damn well, and if you want a generally fast-paced spec that'll handily fulfill almost every niche, then I think this is actually one of the best, maybe the best so far. Actually, for hybrids, it would be my favorite. Now, I do tend to favor the faster-paced specs in the game, so if there was a hybrid class that I would like, it probably would be this one. So that's pretty much the monk covered. Overall, a real highlight of the class review series for me. I'm not sure which class I'm going to do next, but if you want to check out the previous ones, you can take a look at the class review series playlist. And I'm not sure which class I'm going to be doing next, but I will probably be doing a melee roundup in the near future once I do a little bit more with the Feral Druid. But guys, that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think about the monk down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.